Hello, hello. Welcome to cEDH Budget Brews. I'm Tim, and tonight, continuing our series of beginner cEDH Meta Busters, we are going to discuss Evelyn Worldgorger Dragon. But before we get started, please check out our Discord and our Patreon. Links are in the description below. And if you like our content, please hit that like, share, subscribe. It really helps out a lot. And tonight, I am joined by my dear co-host, Brandon. How you doing tonight, Brandon?
I'm doing great, Tim. How are you?
I am good. I'm good. You ready to talk about some Grixis Reanimator?
I love Grixis. It's actually my favorite slice of the pie. So, yes.
It's a pretty good one. All right, well, let's get rolling, baby. Bam! All right. So, for those of you who don't know, Evelyn is a 2/5 with Flash. Costs a hybrid red-black, blue-black, and then a regular black, and then 2 colorless, and has 2 abilities. The first one is whenever Evelyn or another vampire enters the battlefield under your control, exile the top card of each player's library with a collection counter on it. And then the second ability is, once each turn, you may play a card from exile with a collection counter on it if it was exiled by an ability you control. And then lastly, you may spend mana of any, as though it were mana of any color, to cast that spell. So, you play Evelyn, you exile 4 cards, and you can play one of them in a turn if you want. Each turn. That counts you and your opponents and everybody in between. So, that seems like dope as shit, right? Now, with Grixis Reanimator, just kind of before we get to the spicy stuff, let's just kind of talk about the basics. Alright? So, obviously we have our Thassa's Oracle. We got the wheel package. We got all the normal Grixis tutors. We are on Ad Nauseam. We're on Breach. We've got the Brain Freeze. We got the Consult. We got the Tainted Pact. We got all kind of the staples, the Grixis core cards, I guess you could say. The Breach. We've got the standard kind of draw. Dress down's a little bit spicy. It kind of helps answer boards. It can also kind of technically stop us from dying to our own Worldgorger, if we had to. That is a little trick. If you literally had to, you could just be like, oh, I've made infinite mana. Now what do I do? Dress down. And I don't know. I don't know why you would do it, but you could.
Wouldn't you only use that if you don't have another target in grave?
Yeah, it was like a random ass thought that just popped in my brain. I was like, oh, that might be good in an instant. I don't know why, but it's a thing you can do. But it's mostly going to be used to clear the board. I hate bears, and to so that way you can Naws, or it's going to be used to stop somebody else's win attempt with an Oracle or a Dockside or something. You've also got your standard reanimation enchantments, Animate Dead, Dance of the Dead, Necromancy. And then up here, you've got, do not have Reanimate because we're a Worldgorger deck. Alright, so now let's get down to the meat and potatoes. So Worldgorger Dragon is a 7/7 flying trample for 3 red, 3 colorless that has an ETB trigger of when it enters the battlefield, you exile all permanents you control. Then when it leaves the battlefield, you return those all to play. So as long as you reanimate Worldgorger Dragon with one of those animation enchantments that we talked about just a moment ago. That is also why we're not running things like Reanimate or Shallow Grave, stuff like that. What will happen is the enchantment and all your permanents will go away, like your mana rocks and your lands, and then that will cause the Worldgorger Dragon to to have to go back to the graveyard, thus allowing all of those permanents to come back in. It reanimates the dragon again, they all go away, and as long as nobody has a interaction of waiting for the ETB trigger to go on the stack to remove the dragon and then all your stuff's gone, you'll generate infinite mana. And then since Evelyn has Flash, what you do is you kind of just respond to the Worldgorger trigger of when the Animate Dead kind of comes back into play, or when it's about to, after you've made a bunch of mana. And you just you flash Evelyn in, and then you just kind of let her exile everybody's libraries, right? From there, to kind of end the loop, at some point, somebody out of your 3 opponents and yourself, is that you'll wind up playing a card like either like a removal spell to kill Evelyn, or you play like Calling of the Week or Infernal Plunge or something. Well, Infernal Plunge is a sorcery. Mostly you'll find a Calling of the Week between your 3 opponents, and you sack Evelyn, and then you kind of end your loop like that. And then you can just cast somebody's Oracle or your own and win the game that way. But it just kind of exiles everybody out. I mean, technically, you could just exile everybody's shit and then just pass the turn. And if they can't win, they can't win. But you just play the Oracle off of that you've exiled off of somebody. And then you just have to have a way between you and your 3 opponents to get Evelyn in the graveyard or one of the creatures you have in play to end the Worldgorger loop. But what's nice is technically this can all be done at instant speed, at least as far as the setup. If you wind up exiling an entomb, like say mid-game, like mid-combo, then you can just entomb your own Oracle or an opponent's Oracle, and then use the reanimation enchantment to get that. So some of so this deck is kind of slightly teched to be played in a high concentration of Grixis decks. But even non-Grixis decks, you can use pieces from your own deck to like entomb somebody else's Oracle and then get it that way. Or you just simply find a way to kill Evelyn and then end the loop, then cast your own Oracle. But it does give you the ability to win at instant speed, which is nice. Sure, it's a little more clunky than like the sorcery speed wins, but it's there. And it's not too hard to execute. And then you got the normal Grixis Gnaw stuff, and like we've talked about that stuff to death. And I think if people don't really know, there is one other kind of like backup combo that I should mention that I almost forgot about. Mm. So one of the things you can do is with Baron Master Wizard and Dockside Extortionist. So they work together like this. So Dockside will come into play and make a bunch of treasures. Then you sack 1 treasure and then pay 2 to return any permanent to its owner's hand. Or target creature. I'm sorry, any creature to its owner's hand. So as long as Dockside can make 6, you'll net 1 treasure each loop. Alright? And then you can create infinite mana that way. Then you play your Evelyn. You kind of do the same thing where you player, bouncer, player, bouncer, player, bouncer, blah, 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 blah. Repeat till everybody's libraries are gone. Then you just find somebody. Then you assemble somebody's combo from there. Obviously, since her cast a spell from exile thing is only once per iteration of her being in play, you have to like cast whatever you need in between each like bounce. But at the end of the day, all you're wanting to do is just cast somebody's Oracle or your own and win once you have your unbound mana. Kind of the same thing. And then you just have all the Grixis stuff for a backup plan. I think she's a really nice like space for Grixis that like while isn't like complete, like how do I put it? Like on a scale of like I'm here to just win games and I'm just here to dirtle around. I think she's really close to the I'm just here to win games, but isn't like super, like isn't all try hard. Mm-hmm. But she's like try hard enough that she meets that minimum. Like she's tall enough to ride this ride.
Yeah. Stop.
You know what I mean? And but anyway, like the lines are pretty straightforward. I think that probably like not getting needed by the Worldgorger is probably going to be kind of be tough because people will bounce. Like you gotta like that Worldgorger, you need to protect it. Like do not get eaten by it, and people will do that. They'll let you pitch it. They'll let you reanimate. Then they'll go exile trigger on the stack. Chain of Vapor. Ha ha! Yep. And then you're like, fuck. What do I do? You know what I mean?
Well, another thing is like one of the reasons I really like her as a commander is because I've only ever seen Worldgorger Dragon Loops in Rakdos. It just wasn't very good to play it in Grixis or any other color combo. Yeah. And the fact that she's one, and that's the thing with most Rakdos decks is that they don't have the protection they need for Worldgorger Dragon.
No.
So the fact that she has that blue to protect the Worldgorger as well as other ways to get around in case people can interact with the Worldgorger,
Right.
it just makes her a little bit more resilient, and it makes her a little bit like just better. Like I would rather play this than Anya personally.
Oh, totally. And the thing is, I mean, like, really, at the end of the day, like, you're just a Turbo Nos deck that's got like some hipster points, basically. You know what I'm saying? That's really what it is. It's a hipster Grixis Nos deck. Like, but it's like hipster for a purpose, basically. I mean, it's not gonna kind of.
It's not just for show.
No, it is not just for show. It is definitely for a purpose, and she gives you access to a couple of nice, concise, clean combos that you wouldn't have access to in other decks. Because she is like, she combos with Baron. That's awesome. I love it, and that just can turn her into a win con on her own with the Baron Dockside. Like, so, all right. Well, if there's no other comments, I think we shall skedaddle. All right. Well, again, everybody, thank you for joining us, and have a good night. Bye.
Bye.